make sure that the stream is actually working.
We are live.
Perfect. Alrighty. So with that, I'm going to pull myself off of the list of presenters here in a second so that we're not. There we go. All right. Well, welcome to Merge PHP. It is Thursday, December 11th, 2025. Merge PHP is a collaboration of user groups to provide online virtual events for the PHP community. You can see the names of the various cities and states where we are hailing from in terms of user group organizers. And here's our wonderful wall of logos. I'm going to move around our beautiful images here because I'm covering. There we go. So we have all these wonderful PHP user groups represented from all across the US. If you want a JetBrains license for whether that's PHP Storm, which version 2025.3 just came out, or one of the other JetBrains editors, not JetBrains Fleet because that's going away, but one of the other ones which are still kind of best in class. VS Code folks can fight me. Send an email to chris@atlantaphp.org and you'll get a 1-year license for whoever emails first. So today being the 11th, we now have PHP 8.5 released. So we have currently 5 versions of PHP that you can be on and still get security updates. That will only be true for another 19 days. Once you hit the end of the year, you should be on PHP 8.2 or above. Otherwise, you're not getting security fixes unless your distribution maintainer backports them. So we have a number of conferences and events coming up. You have a number of things online. Then if you want to go to Florida in February, there's a Drupal camp in Orlando. DPC is in March. DrupalCon is in Chicago also in March. 17 Live in various places. PHP Day in Verona, Italy. And then PHP Tech in Chicago. I believe speakers have all been selected at this point. So schedule should be out if it's not already. And then you kind of go further down in the schedule over the course of the year. I'm sure as you get toward the back half of the year, you'll have additional conferences being announced between now and then. So we are available on various socials when I remember to post. You're here watching us on YouTube. That is the primary place to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. We are also on the Fediverse. We have a channel in the PHP community Discord, and occasionally we'll post on the platform formerly known as Twitter. So this is the last edition, at least for a while, of Merge PHP that is happening at 6 p.m. Central Time. As of next month, we are moving an hour later. This is to allow folks on the West Coast of the US to the ability to tune in without missing out on a bunch of work. 5 p.m. seemed to be a decent compromise there, while still keeping things not absolutely horrible for folks on the East Coast. These times are relative to US time zones, specifically America, New York, Chicago, Denver, and LA. So what time it is when we go live in UTC is going to depend on when whether daylight savings time is active. We will still be every second Thursday of the month, just a little bit later to better allow folks to potentially go back in person and us to be the anchor for those meetups. So next month, we will have an in-person meetup that we'll be streaming live from. Hunter Skrasic, one of my fellow organizers for Long Run PHP, is doing a slightly different MCP talk, actually, versus the one that we had a few months ago. On top of that, and I'll get to this in a second, we'll have a lightning talk or two. But instead of playing with Symfony-related things, we're going to pull, I think, some PHP documentation in and make sure that whatever agentic AI thing that you're using does not hallucinate things in PHP that are either non-existent or exist but are the way that PHP was written like 10 years ago rather than now because it trained on crappy material. So if you have a talk idea, go to mphp.io/speakers. Whether you are presenting live or doing a recording and sending that recording to us, submit there, we'll work it out. Whether you are presenting a full-length presentation or a lightning talk of 5 or 10 minutes of basically show and tell of something that you found cool, something that you want to show off. We want both types of presentations. If we don't get anything between now and January, I'm going to put something together about, I don't know, some like fun things you can do with GitHub and present that live here from Austin. But we'd love to see more of the community presenting, whether that is a full-length presentation or whether that's 5 or 10 minutes, and whether that's live or whether that's a recording. So catch us there, and we're looking forward to adding lightning talks to the setup here. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Carlos for tonight's topic of generating hexagonal architecture code from OpenAPI contracts. OpenAPI is something near and dear to my heart because you don't necessarily want to be writing API documentation in a format that you can't really verify and can't plug into the wealth of tooling out there on OpenAPI. And there are fun things that you can do with OAS docs, for example, actually building code from them. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Carlos to share his.
Well, thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and saying hello from Madrid, Spain. I'm going to share my screen. I hope you can see it correctly. Okay. Can you see it correctly?
Give me 1 second to add that on. All right, we are good. Thank you.
Perfect. Let's go. So the objective of this meeting is, after this meeting, if somebody who never tried hexagonal architecture or CQRS patterns, less the fear to try to understand it and try to use it. Also, I have a lot of things to say about the generator, but let's go step by step. First of all, let me present myself. I'm full stack developer. I'm mostly working on Symfony for a long time. Right now, I'm currently working on Laravel, but I also do frontend in Angular and React. I normally present myself as somebody who transforms caffeine into code. And I'm a remote worker. Right now, I'm a tech lead at Userlytics. and I love to travel, and this is important. You will see, because I'm gonna try to bring you with my experience in travel to this hexagonal architecture and CQRS. These are the cities where I've been working in my last companies, and this is Amsterdam. Probably this one, guys, is Boston. This one is Berlin. This one, I think everybody knows, right? And the last one, Userlytics. The headquarters are in Miami, even though I'm working remotely at Madrid. So, in case you have any kind of questions about the hexagonal architecture or CQRS in PHP, feel free. You can contact me on Twitter or LinkedIn, wherever you like. I will try my best to answer your questions. And yeah, hopefully you join this code thing. It's important to tell that this generator was generated, sorry, in Evolucare, my previous company in France. And this was the team where I used to work. And it's important because they were part of this generator, okay? I don't want to sell this generator and say it's mine, because these guys also worked a lot on it. So I'm going to say his names, Marco, Rafael, Javier, and Sara. These guys were amazing working with them, and thanks to them, we have the generator in the shape we have it today. So first of all, API contracts and generators. I mean, there is a lot of, there are like two big kind of standard contracts, which is OpenAPI or Swagger. And in case you are working with async events, there is an initiative which is called Async API, which is pretty similar. But the question here is who do the API first? Who starts with the API, designing the API? And because there is a lot of tools in order to design your API, you can do it. And there is a lot of tools, not only to parse, to verify UIs, just check this page. I would say a special mention to Spotlight. For me, is the best UI there is in order to generate a contract into an API. Yeah, this is MM. Not using contracts, contract first. And now that you have the contract first, let's generate the code from contract. Why? Because what if after a meeting of 1 hour or 2 hours, you are able to provide a contract on OpenAPI, and then you just click some buttons and you have a backend API already working in your favorite language, and you have a front end, for example, with signal stores, and all the contract and all the HTTP call services already provide to you. This is doable. I used to work like this. So we started, and we only need to take care of the logic per se, and in the front end, not only the logic, also the paint, right? So what is this generator? Okay, this generator will build an hexagonal architecture with the three typical layers. There are people who add more layers, just simplify it. Infrastructure, domain, and application. A command and carry bus, we will see what it means. Command and carry handlers, controllers and routes, DTOs, entities model, routes, doctrine repositories, blah, 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 a lot of stuff. The most difficult was to generate these fixtures, which are seeds in the Laravel world, which mean I will have, in order to mock develop and test, a functional API in whatever database I want. In my case, the sample I will show later is going to be a SQLite. But yeah, I will have also the migrations in order to generate these models. And the most important thing is, thanks to the CQRS and the Hexagonal, I can generate a unit and functional test with 100% coverage of all the lines that are crude. The ones that are not crude will generate some tests with emptiness and will generate the code as far as it can. The PHP stand level is 8. And also, I don't know if you guys use infection or mutant testing. Mutant testing allows you to check if your code, your tests are correct or are better. And we also have something is called architectural tests. So basically, what we are going to build is an alternative to AP platform in the PHP world. but without the magic. Meaning, there is nothing magic. It's just pure code that does exactly what it should do. Just using the framework and doing exactly what you need to do. And you can later change this code, which is the important thing. You can read it. It's your own code. Okay. Also, if there is any questions in the chat, please stop me and or just put it there, and I will try to my best to also to answer these questions. So in order to procure this, let's see where we start. We always start with an OpenAPI specification, okay? And the contract gives you a lot of information. Look, we have the paths, which is users, which is a list. We have a user with a parameter ID, which is typed. It should be a string. And in my case, it should be a UID, but it can be an integer. I have a get for this get user, and with the same parameter, I also have a put in order to update the user. So if you fill all these details using a good tool to design APIs, you can automatically check and say, hey, I have all my routes. It's not so difficult to get this YAML or this JSON and automatically generate my routes in Laravel or in Symfony. It's just it's the same language. It's just basically do a little bit of transformations, right? But I also have the responses and requests typed, which means I can create DTOs for the requests, I can create DTOs for the responses, and I can assume that maybe if whatever I get is the same as I update, probably this is an entity model I have on my back on my storage, right? So this is it. If you start looking at contracts this way, you can see that there is a lot of information you can automatically transform and generate code for it. So let's see one of the samples of what a type objects mean. In this case, I have an schema which is a user, right? Which is required ID, username, password hash, name. And I type the properties. I can even create validations for these properties already, right? And also, if the model is the same, I get and I post and I update and I receive and I transfer, I can assume this is a model, right? So later, once we started with the generator, we started to add new features. For example, if it's a list and in the query params appear some parameters in the query params, not in the path, like page size, page number, I can assume your intention is to paginate these list results, but I can automate also this. If a field of one of the entities endings in ID probably is a relation, and I can filter by it. So probably if there is a query param that is also something ID and it's in my model, let's create the filter automatically. And we have also created by, these kind of behaviors in your models that you normally need to program again and again and again. It's going to be automatically generated for you. So how we infer the relations, and this is something that is on top of OpenAPI. Okay, if we consider that we have some objects that are repeated in the contract, and I consider them as models, I want to create a way or a standard over my OpenAPI that give me the relations, right? That tell me, hey, this is a one-to-many, this is a many-to-many. Let's see in a contract how I will do it. For example, category with subcategory, there's a one-to-many, many-to-one, and a middle model, so table. So I assume this is a many-to-many between category and subcategory. But category can only have one category type. So I assume this is a many-to-one. So simple. I'm not gonna, it's better if I just explain visually. Category has a category type, and this is another model, followed by ID. And whatever this is, it's another, it can be used as identifier. I should consider there is a relation between this object category and this category type. right? The same with many-to-manys. If I have an array, I have a plural of one of my models. Subcategory has categories, plural, and I have an array, and its identifiers is clean. It's easy to know that there is a many-to-many, and I can choose which one is going to be the owner. In this case, subcategory is going to be the owner. So later we say, okay, this is cool, or generator works, but then we say, okay, but generating the OpenAPI contract sometimes takes a lot of time. Why don't we use MySQL Workbench, which is a UI, to create your persistence models in MySQL, and from that, we generate our OpenAPI. We just say, okay, I have a model personal trainer, coaches, gym classes. So we have some small standards, and in MySQL Workbench, you can put some comments inside the table. So if the table comment says CRUD, I will generate a CRUD. If it says create, I will only create the endpoint creates. If has a list, only lists, update. The normal verbs of a CRUD approach, okay? I will show later. So wrapping up contract, ton of the code can be generated, and also you can create the tests because you have the roots, I have the inputs and the outputs. I automatically can generate a functional testing and see what is going on. If I expect to receive an object of type user, I can serialize whatever is my response to see if it's a user, right? And this is the idea. There is a lot of information that we can use thanks to the OpenAPI contracts to be very typed. Okay, and this is me traveling. Here I'm gonna say it's 1:30 a.m. in Madrid right now. So I hope my friends, if somebody is watching me, is not sleeping like this lady in Tokyo. And yeah, I'm gonna put these kind of pictures in order to change subjects. I hope you enjoy. Let's go to hexagonal architecture. This is gonna be an intro, okay? But I hope I simplify it enough so people will try it after this talk. So I would say there is a lot of literature on the internet about these different names also. Onion architecture, port and adapter architecture. Some people say it's different. There are some difference. Sometimes this is also confused with domain-driven design because hexagonal architecture could be used as a pattern inside DDD. And I would say the explanations are very complex. You see this kind of stuff and you say, okay, I'm done. I don't understand. This is super complex. Dependencies goes inwards. Here are the repositories, the services, interface adapter. I mean, SOAP, well, anyway, very difficult, right? So let's simplify and let's do it super simple. There are 3 layers from the outside to the internal, which is going to be our domain logic. So we have infrastructure, application, and domain. So, or we can say we have a core domain, which is our pure logic, only pure logic, very easy to test, almost no dependencies or only dependencies between them. I also have externally the application layer, which is going to be like a bridge, and then I have the external layers, the contact with the external worlds. So let's see in details each one of these different layers. Let's go from the outside to the inside. Let's go like the arrows. External side, contact with external worlds. And this part should not have nothing to do with our logic. Okay? Here, what we have normally, command consoles, the database, the part of the database that it's connecting to the database, yes, it's part of the infra, it's an external service. I need to put it here. Queues, RabbitMQ, all this kind of logic that give me the transportation should be here. Obviously, the controllers, because it's the entry point of my code. I will have also the UI, the resources, framework connections, and also the doctrine repositories or their repositories, which is connected to the database. And it's important to tell this layer is totally attached to our framework. If your framework changes, you need to change your infrastructure's layer. So that's why we try to do this layer the most thin as possible. And I'm gonna tell you, I updated a version of Symfony 6.4 to Symfony 7.3 in 2 hours. Why? Because I only have to take care of this. The rest, there is no framework code related in the rest of the layers. You always need to put it here and have it located. So this hexagonal architecture is about changing instead of doing model view controller is to change the order in which the things appears. First appears the external connections, the dependencies, and the framework. And it's as simple as this. Then we have the application layer, which is the middle layer, and this is the coordination, okay? It's the bridge between our external world and in our domain. Here, it will contain commands and queries that I will explain and contain the use cases of the logic. There are some people that say the use cases should be on the domain. There is a little bit of the debate. Let's just say some people put the use cases here. That's okay. Also, these layers should be very easy to export to another framework. Should not have dependencies of the infra layer, or at least the minimal possible. Okay, for example, UIDs, you need to generate a new UID. Okay, then you have a dependency with whatever package generates the UID. Use an adapter. But it's okay. If you don't want to use the adapter, just think about it, and you need to know that you have external dependencies, but they are minimal, okay? And then the domain layer. Here, we only have pure logic. And all the logics that make our business earn money, it should be here. And here, in the DDD world, we will have entities, aggregate value objects. In the no DDD, we will have just simple entities. We can have domain events. Something happens that is important to understand and we need to save. We can have services, but it should be pure. And we will have the repositories as interfaces, because this is going to communicate with the repositories I have in the infra via interfaces. So you have to change the database. It's going to be okay. I just need to implement a different interface. So using the adapter pattern. And this layer should be exported without zero effort. That's why I say I could update Symfony 6.4 to 7.3 in 2 hours, because I only have to change the infra layer. The rest was okay. And it was just as simple as doing composer update, couple of errors, fix them, next. And normally in big projects, this is impossible. But if you organize the code like this, it's possible. And also we win a lot of other stuff. Also, since it's very easy for a junior or somebody who never used hexagonal architecture to put code where it should not be, we created a PHP stand plugin that allow us to use this kind of rules that says, okay, in app domain should not depend on app application or app infrastructure, because domain must be pure. But in the case of infra, we can say, sorry, in a case of application, which is the middle, should not depend on infra, but we can put, as I said, some exceptions, like the UID, or in our case, we use the event dispatcher, or we use the DTOs. That's okay, very small. But we have it also controlled this way. So if somebody tried to have dependency in the domain or in the application, PHP stand is going to say, sorry, no. So this tool is very useful. So now the big challenge of this talk. Van Vernon in his YouTube channel has a talk called CQRS in 10 minutes or less. I'm not Van Vernon, but I'm going to try, okay? Let's see. So the origins of this idea of command carry responsibility segregation come from the Eiffel programming. Eiffel programming was one of the first program languages that use object-oriented patterns. And Bertrand Meyer, the creator of Eiffel, talked about the CQRS, which is as simple as whenever you read, you don't write. Or put it in another way, the setters should be different from the getters. Now, obviously nowadays everybody separates the setter from the getter. You don't do a setter and return something, or change, or you do a get and then you do a set in the same get. Nobody normally do that, and this is what Bertrand Meyer did. And then after some years, Greg Jones said, okay, this is super cool, but I'm gonna do exactly the same in the database. So I'm gonna have whatever I have on a UI, and I'm gonna separate commands, which mean writes, to carries, to reads. And also, once you have done this, one of the important things is you can do commands, writes into a write database. This write database maybe persists after in another kind of read database that maybe is not NoSQL, Elasticsearch, for example, or Redis. And then your queries only read from this read database. In that case, we'll have eventual consistency, because whatever is being written, maybe it's not read available at the moment, but that's okay. So here comes the pattern. CQRS. Let's separate the hexagonal, and let's use commands and queries. And the trick, and what allow us to do testing, sorry, I have 100% coverage of testing, is this simple trick. Between my infrastructure layer, my application layer, and my domain, the communication will be using DTOs, data transfer objects, popos in PHP. Simple objects that will send the message, so I can control in application what is the input and what is the output. So the tests are very simple. I will receive something to do with a DTO and some dependencies, and then I will test all the possible cases. But it's going to be very isolated. I can control what is going to enter, what is going to go out. It's very simple to test application. Domain is very simple because it's pure PHP. It's the typical case when you start unit testing and you see the samples and you say, okay, unit testing is super simple, let's do it, and then you realize it's super complex. But if you use this pattern, you will see it's a lot easier. And from the infra, it's exactly the same. You will receive, normally in your controllers, a request that you can type, because we have the DTO, because we know what is going to be received, because the OpenAPI contract is telling us here in this controller will enter only this, and we can unit test that. So this is the trick. This is why we do it. Okay, let's go. Commands and queries. Let's go with commands. Commands is intended to communicate a change in the state of the system. Meaning, if I have a storage like a database, a command is telling, hey, do an insert, do an update, or do a delete. Commands should not return anything. Obviously, exceptions, yes. And commands are the one responsible of generate a domain event. An event that is going to be sent somewhere, or maybe stored, that says a user has been created. The user has paid for the upgrade. Whatever is important for the business, we can store somewhere, and later business people can do queries into wherever is our domain event system. Queries, the opposite of commands. Queries are only asking questions about the state. It's just asking to the database, what is there? It's a select, what we understand as a select. So never a query should change the state of the database. That's why we separate. If you want to do that, do a query and then do a command. And obviously a query should return that. This is me with President Ronald Reagan statue in Budapest. So let's merge what we have learned so far. So we have the typical actions of a growth, and it should have also associated some verbs, right? A create should be a post and should be a command, which is all right. Should not give me a response. Once I create, use the verbs of the response: 201, created, 422, unprocessable entity. Could generate an event? Yes. Retrieve is a get. A get is implying a select. So in order to understand this table easier, I'm gonna say, very simple. If it's a get, it's a carry. If not, you are doing a change of the state with your verbs. Post, put, patch, delete. You're doing a change of the state, so it should be a command, right? And also, please use the correct HTTP responses, because already telling you a 201 is created, but if it's an update or a patch, it should be a 202 accepted. Since I don't return any data, at least I know everything went wrong or okay, or it went wrong. Okay. Also, if I give me a 404, we already know. But if the user is not authenticated for 103, just read the verbs. They are very verbose and give you a lot of understanding of everything. So, in order to simplify even more the code, it's normal when you use a CQRS pattern to use something called command bus. And it's what is called a chain of responsibility design pattern, or it's like Henry Ford, the line of people doing small steps in a line, right? It's just as simple as having, let me show this. I have a command and will be sent to the command bus. And this command bus is going to do different actions. It's going to pass through this middleware, this middleware, this middleware, and I can add other middlewares. In my case, whenever I have a command, I want to log it. I want to start a transaction. Remember, command, I'm going to change my state. So what I'm going to do is start a transaction, begin transaction, and if everything goes okay, then I finish it. If not, I will roll back. So I'm pretty sure that if somebody tried to do something with my relations, this is my safeguard. And I also, my command bus, obviously, is passing a command. It should pass it to what we call the command handler, the code that will catch this command and will do some stuff, the logic. And it's as simple as that. It's just different steps that is happening into a chain. And this is the chain of responsibility design pattern. Very simple. And our generator is already have this command bus and a carry bus already built. But there is a lot of people and a lot of libraries who provide you a command bus and a carry bus if you want to use them. This is me in Boston in touching the feet of John Harvard. It says that it gives you luck. I broke my arm after 10 minutes after. So no luck for me. John Harvard didn't give me any luck. Hexagonal carry bus. Well, the carry bus is exactly as the command bus. It's gonna do the same pattern, but it's a lot more simple because it just need to search for the correct carry handler, log the carry, and wherever it's output of the handler is gonna transform to something that can be simplified as an array that is gonna be serialized to a JSON. Okay, so if after in my carry handler I return a complex object, my carry bus is going to try to normalize to array to convert it to JSON. And it is the same with the command bus. The final developer don't need to worry about this. They only need to be aware of this. Okay. Let me show you a controller. Controller, infra, the first entry point. What we did, its root endpoint, we create a unique controller. Why? Because we want to follow single responsibility principle. That's from Solid. We map a DTO from the request, and then we pass it to whatever we have to do. And let me show you in the code. Maybe it makes more sense. This is a real code that is in production. Okay. So this is my controller. It's a final read only class controller. It receives as constructor my command bus, which is an interface, but it's going to receive the command bus correctly. And I just say in Symfony, this is super cool because you can say whatever is the request, transform it to this object from DTO. So I'm going to create a form controller. It should respect whatever is on the form DTO. It has an ID with type of string. If it has a name with a string, if it has whatever, whatever the request is going to already give me this from DTO. And if it fails, before entering here, it's going to give me a 422. unprocessable entity. So this is going to enter here, and this is my controller. That's it. One controller for one action. This command bus handle new create from command, and the from DTO, which is already, as you can see, is typed as from DTO. That's it. A new JSON response, because here, if something happens, an exception is going to be raised by Symfony. I already have it mapped to wherever I want to say, and I also the whatever happened in the database is going to be rolled back automatically. As I said, developers should not be aware of all the details of this command bus. They only need to know this. I need to create a new command with my data, my DTO, and pass it to the command bus to handle. And yes, this is a command. A command will receive only, as I tell, it will be a simple DTO. And this is the trick of being easy to test stuff. I will show later. I will try to generate some code, and we can see this in more details. But as you can see, a command is as simple as just having a constructor with a tag DTO. So I just have tag DTO, and will have a tag DTO object inside it. And this is it. Nothing else. So wrapping up Hexagonal architecture. Hexagonal architecture allows us to have core code which is super decoupled from the framework. So I can change different versions of the framework, use the framework to fully potential, but only in one layer. And we split the code in 3 layers. The communication between layers is using DTOs. And this is it. We just need to say, whenever I'm going to change the state, it should be a command. Whenever I'm going to access information about this state, it should be a query. So, conclusions. Our code generator is a simple command tool that will read from YAML JSON and with some special standard will generate the code. But we can also generate from MySQL workbench. I will do an example. The code will be split in 3 layers. Maintain the couple code from the framework. The code will generate a 100% coverage. Everything is Symfony PHP compatible. And it's important to note, this is not a DDD tool, and it's not intended to, okay? But the good thing is our generator already is on YAMLs, on Twig templates, and these Twig templates can generate different type of codes. And also another conclusion after giving this talk is I have a lot of stupid pictures. Like this on Colombia, Vienna, and Cloudflare headquarters. So, and more conclusions, this is not a silver bullet. This is not a tool that will replace developer, but it generates a ton of code with so much heavy standards, with so many tooling around for PHP unit testing 100%, with infection at 100%, PHP standard level 8, that later inject your code will force you to follow this structure and will make your code very fast to develop. And we want to expand to Laravel, to .NET. We already have Signal stores in front end, so it can be multi-purpose or multi-language. So I'm gonna do a demo. If there is any questions, now is the time. If not, I will proceed with my demo.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Bobby. Yeah, no luck for me. I've been there a lot of times, by the way. Okay, let's start. Imagine we have a gym. We are going to model a gym. Okay, so we have personal trainers, which are going to be coaches. We have gym members. The gym members with class members and gym classes with the coaches will generate these gym classes. and the gym members can book some machines. Okay, very simple model, but has a lot of complexity between relations and stuff. And this is a MySQL workbench. Okay, so as I said, one of the things we did is machine bookings. I only need the endpoint create and delete. Let's go coaches. No comment mean create a list. Gym classes will have accrued create, retrieve, update, delete. Let's see personal trainers also accrued. So let's see. I have my code here. As you can see, my source folder is empty. My test only have a git keep and the bootstrap. So my code is empty. But I have, and not only that, I'm gonna do a git clean -f -d in order to ensure, and I'm gonna call my Microsoft Word, my SQL Workbench structure, and it's gonna read from this sample gym that I was showing you. This one, a sample gym MWB, and it's gonna generate this sample gym YAML. Let's see if it generates an OpenAPI. I hope I don't have demo effect. Okay, since I could run twice. Look at this beauty. There is a many-to-many relation between gym classes and gym members. Gym classes, gym members. We have a middle class here, a middle table here. So there is a many-to-many. Which one do you prefer to be the owner? I would say in this case, make more sense if it's gym classes. Okay, check the generated spec at contract sample gym. Okay, I'm gonna go to contracts. I have several here, blog posts, gym with behaviors. I have a lot. So I will have this OpenAPI automatically generated. I said coaches only have the list. Gym members have only a list. But gym member will have with plural the list. In singular, a post to create. With the ID will mean I'm gonna get, or I'm gonna delete, or I'm gonna update. If we want, we can see it here with the typical Swagger documentation, but as you can see, we have it. I prefer to see the contracts. As I said, I'm gonna update a gym member, so I should expect a gym member, right? Let's see what a gym member is. Required ID, first name, type string, format UID. I can even extract some data in order to populate the database, like in this primary identifier true. But if it's an ID, we'll do it automatically for you. First name, which will have a max length of 50. This is extracted from MySQL Workbench also somewhere. Let's do this. I have this is gym member. Let's see gym member. Let's see if I can expand this a little bit. Yes, varchar 50, varchar 50. And ID is going to be a varchar 45 because it's a UID. Personal trainer, the same, blah, blah, blah. But important to note, everything is super typed. A gym class, a post, expect this request, and has these responses, 201 or 222. Okay, so first step, I was able to generate from a simple drawing tool from my persistence layer, I can generate an OpenAPI contract. Now I'm saving a lot of time already because with this OpenAPI contract, I can give it to the front-end guys and the front-end guys can start working. But let's go a step further. Let's just generate all the code we need. So I'm gonna call my command OpenAPI structure. And again, I'm gonna show you the source is empty. I'm gonna show you the test is empty. I'm gonna generate it. Another stuff that we did is, since we generate seeds or fixtures, it's telling me CSV file not found. But if you put some in this table of personal trainer, some seed, some IDs, some or gym members, you put some fake data, it will automatically export to a CSV, and my generator will read it and put it in your fixtures. So look at this. I already have the 3 layers: application, domain, infrastructure, and I have the tests. Boom. So I generated a bunch whole of code already in, I don't know, it was 5 seconds, 9 seconds. Okay, let's see if it passed the test before I enter into the code. And I'm gonna run it with coverage. Okay, 145 tests in 9 seconds, not bad. To develop 145 tests in 9 seconds is not bad, right? And look at this beauty: 100%, 100%, 100%. Everything is covered to the stream because I know what data should pass where and how. And Hexagonal architecture allow me to do this kind of stuff. Okay, let's go a step further. Infection. I'm going to explain a little bit about infection. Infection will run my tests, but will change my code. Let's see, I don't know, a code, for example. Yeah. I'm going to explain later this, but basically imagine I don't pass the carry page number to my code, or I don't pass this as array, or I don't pass this one. Then my test will fail. Well, infection is a tool that will modify my test, my code, and will try to pass the test. If the test don't fail, it will generate what is called a mutant. And then I need to fix my test. So it's a tool to know if your tests are performing correctly. If you change your code, the test will fail, right? So let's do it. Let's see. Okay, covered code, 100%, 100%, 100%. 239 mutations were generated, and all of them were killed. So infection has been trying to modify my code, run the test, and all the tests failed after that. And this is super difficult to achieve, but good thing I have this tool. I can do it. And what else? Let's see the PHP stand. Level 8. I generated 121 files in source and no errors. Bada boom. Sorry. I'm super happy every time I do this. And last but not least, I'm going to delete any kind of database that there is before. I'm going to create a new database. I'm going to run the migrations. And I'm going to load my fixtures, my seeds, for my group develop. Because my tests run in the group test. Let's do it. Let's execute these commands. I'm going to reload. Okay. And let's see, for example, this is another Swagger view, okay? But this is already calling my Symfony backend. It's on localhost 8000. And I'm going to try my items and my total. And if I say a page size of 3 and page number 1, it's going to be 3 items with a total of 10. The total doesn't change. Let's see a gym member list. Let's try. Okay, cool. Let's go to something which is a little bit more. You see this one, personal trainer, has a dependency with coach or with gym member ID. But let's try. And I have these items. So now I'm going to filter by this UID, which is the coach. And yes, it works. So my full API is completely working. So let's see the code that has been generated. Let's go layer by layer. and probably I will go to, well, the command bus and carry bus are here. It's automatically copied from my generator. Into my DB, I have the fixtures, as I said, coach, def, and test. It's just using faker. Since I know coach has a name or is a text with maximum number of 50 characters, I know I can generate whatever objects I want and persist them. I can go to personal trainer, which is going to be a little bit more difficult because I need to have generated coach and gym member before in order to generate the references. But it's exactly the same. I know exactly what it should happen in each step. And even though generating this code, meta program this code in order to do this is quite difficult, it's doable. I have a dependency with coach def and gym member def, and it's generating the code perfectly. As you can see, the code is running here. It's doing the carries I was doing. Okay, what else I have in the controller? My DTOs. Let's continue with personal trainer. This is where I'm specifying this is going to have a relation with the model coach or with gym member. And we'll have a start date and end date. Cool. Which I normally prefer to put as data time immutables, but this is preferences. We'll generate some repositories that basically have the CRUD options. Okay. Just it's gonna save, it's gonna delete, it's gonna do all this kind of stuff. No mystery there. And let's see the controllers. Let's see, for example, this personal trainer, the list I just showed you where I was filtering for some stuff. Okay. If it's a list, it's a get. If it's a get, it will be a carry bus, right? So what are my parameters, my carry parameters? The ones that appear here: page size, page number, coach ID, member ID. Okay, so let's see. Here I have them. I map these parameters, so I already have them typed as int or as a string, and they are or optional in my case. And then, as I said, as simple as generate a response from the carry bus. And in the case there is no response items, just throw a not found or throw an OK. So unit test this controller is super easy because you just have to pass to the invoke whatever the parameters is, and this is it. But let's go to the next step. So I have a personal trainer carry. Let's go to see it. We'll have these parameters. And if now I'm in the application layer, let's see what this carry handler does. Okay, as an example. So it's gonna get the personal trainer repository interface, and it's gonna get it's gonna call the handle with a carry interface. I cannot type here as list personal trainer carry because it will not works implementing this interface, which is carry interface. But I can type it like this with PHP stand at least, or PHP sound. This is gonna generate me a list personal trainer response. So first, let's treat the filters. If the carry has a coach ID and it's a string and it's a UID, I'm gonna say this filters coach, this one. If it's a member ID, gym member ID. Then I just need to call my repository and do the list with this filter array and with the page size and the page number. And I will receive and I will inject this to my response. And this is it. Let's see, for example, create, which is going to be more complex. Because in order to create a personal trainer, I have the dependencies or the foreign keys of coach and gym member. But it's exactly the same. First, I'm going to ask if the coach exists in my repository. So it's a coach. The same with gym member. If it's not found, it's going to throw me entity not found, which is going to be a 404 with this data. Field coach is required. Field gym member is required. Because I'm creating a personal trainer, right? And then here, I do the trick. If I'm receiving a specific ID from the front end, if not, I will generate a UID. And this is the case of being in the application layer in a command handler and using a external dependency that I have control. I never created an adapter for this because I think it's too much. It's doable, but why? And this is it. I create the personal trainer and I save into my repository. Super simple stuff. So later, this will go to this is my domain, app domain models. Let's see what I have in the domain. As I said, in the application, I have my queries command handlers, which is my use cases, where control what it's received via DTO and try to do stuff into the persistent layer using the models. And then in my domain, I can have events, domain events, or I can have models. Personal trainer have a construct, a static function create, which we call the return new, and this is it. Update the same. So, and I think this is it. I have nothing else to share unless you tell me, and that's it. I hope you like it.
All right. Thanks so much for presenting, Carlos. And thanks to everyone who made it out to today's presentation. Last call for questions in the chat. Looks like there's none right now. Yeah. As a reminder, we will be back 1 hour later in the evening in January, on January 8th.